conference for the year 2020 AD, and welcome to all. I bid a special welcome to members of Cabinet here with us this morning. Welcome. Permanent secretaries, heads of departments, senior civil servants, high command of the police force, and of course you, the members of the press corps. The format for this morning's press conference is as per usual. The Premier will make his usual statement, and then you, the members of the press corps, will be given the opportunity to ask your questions. Might I remind you, questions, no editorials. In asking the questions, you're kindly asked or reminded to give your name and the agency that you represent, just in case we have to give follow-up information to you at a later date. Kindly turn your phones on silent, or, if possible, kindly turn them off. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming to the podium the Honorable Premier of Nevis, Mark A.G. Brantley.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first in our series of press conferences, monthly press conferences. Let me start, because this is the first, to say Happy New Year. I know the New Year is well advanced already, but Happy New Year to everyone, and I'm delighted to be here with you. We have a bit of information to get through, so I want to share with the general public, as I often do at this press conference, the available information. I start by indicating that since the reopening of the Four Seasons Resort, Mr. Gonzalo Guelman Ross, the general manager, he would have left that property, and he has been replaced by Mrs. Yvette Thomas Henry. Mrs. Yvette Thomas Henry is the new general manager of the Four Seasons Nevis. She's also the regional vice president of Four Seasons. She is born, is a Caribbean national, born in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and she has roots, I'm told, in St. Kitts. And she is the first female, the first Caribbean-born person, and the first woman of color to be the general manager of Four Seasons Nevis. We would want to welcome Mrs. Yvette Thomas Henry to her new role, and to advise that on the 9th of January, the Honorable Eric Evelyn and myself, we went to see Mr. Gonzalez and to wish him all the very best in his new journey and his new efforts. I would want certainly to go on record to thank him for his stewardship of that very significant property, bearing in mind, of course, that he would have presided over the reconstruction of that hotel in a very difficult period for the island. And he did a remarkable job, and we took a little gift for him, I recall, and thanked him for his contribution. We certainly welcome Mrs. Thomas Henry to Nevis, Queen of the Caribbean, and we look forward to working closely with her as well. While we are at Four Seasons, let me just commend publicly Mr. Marco Simmons. He was recently promoted to credit manager, having started his journey at Four Seasons as front desk agent. Let me also congratulate Ms. Janelle Esdale for being promoted to assistant manager of the resort's new restaurant, Escalina, and also Ms. Kish Sandra Williams for being promoted to the position of beach and pool supervisor. She has been with the Four Seasons now, we're told, for some 9 years. Now, why is that important? I think it's important that we recognize our people who continue to do well, but also we recognize that the partnership that we afford with the Four Seasons is bearing fruit, because we have said to them that our young local talent has to be harnessed and put in positions of management there at the hotel, and I believe they've responded favorably thus far. Let me congratulate the Golden Rock Hotel. They have been named at number 4 in the 50 best hotels in the Caribbean Today's Time magazine. We congratulate them on that achievement. Let us also congratulate Montpelier. They've been named one of the 8 best spots for beating the winter blues in the January 15 Vanity Fair Getaway Guide magazine. While I'm in congratulatory mood, let me also and we have a lot of good news today, so you'll have to bear with me. Let me congratulate our Deputy Governor General, Her Honor Hailita Liebert. I used to say, I'm accustomed to saying our beloved Deputy Governor General, Her Honor Hailita Liebert. She was recently invested with the title of Officer of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, OBE. This was made public on 28 December 2019 by our Governor General, His Excellency Sir Tapley Seaton. On the 15th of this month, we were honored to attend the investiture ceremony at Government House in St. Kitts, and many of our colleagues from the Nevis Island administration attended. I was privileged to be there as well, we paid homage to some 19 distinguished citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis for their service and contribution to the development of our country. During this ceremony, 7 divisions were honored and awarded, and I would like to list them and to congratulate them from all of us here at the Premier's Ministry and certainly the Nevis Island Administration. Mr. L. Flynn Miko Warner. He received the MBE for his contribution to calypso and music development. Mr. Augustine Merchant received the Companion of the Star of Merit for his contribution to agricultural development. Mr. Lester Blackett received an award for his work in sports. Mr. Antonio Abernathy Liebert received also the Medal of Honor for his contribution to culture. Mr. Everett Weber Herbert, the Medal of Honor in the area of broadcasting. Ms. Erlene Maynard, the Medal of Honor for her contribution to education. And Mrs. Alice Swanston, the Medal of Honor for her contribution to education and community outreach. The 21st Annual Hearts and Hands Luncheon was convened on the 19th of January under the theme Community Service. 3 divisions were honored: Mrs. Helen Brooks Bradley, Mrs. Althea Jones, and our foremost artist in the Federation, Mr. Vaughan Anslin. The keynote speaker was Mrs. Evelyn Henville, and of course we congratulate all the awardees and all of the winners. Information has come to us that Mr. Joseph Parry has tendered his resignation as the Member of Parliament for the constituency of St. Thomas's. His resignation, we are advised, took effect on the 31st of December 2019. We would want to go on record to thank Mr. Parry for his service over 3 decades. He was in the political milieu here on the island of Nevis. He has represented the people of St. Thomas's for a very long period of time, and we would really want to wish him well in his future endeavors. Of course, the departure of Mr. Parry means that an entirely new era of politics has now been ushered in, because there's no one left in active politics in Nevis from that generation anymore. And I would certainly wish to commend him, but also to say that his departure signals what I've said publicly time and time again, that we are all here but for a time, on the stage but for a time. We do what we can, and then we move on and allow others to take the stage. He has now moved on, and he has left his party, the Nevis Reformation Party, and we will see what kind of stage they will inherit. The reality is now that he has moved on to other things, and we would want to wish him well and commend him for his service. Now, what his departure means is that we now have a vacancy in the St. Thomas's constituency. And whilst that constituency has traditionally been held by the NRP, it means that there will have to be now a by-election. My understanding is that a by-election must occur within 90 days, and therefore the political parties must ready themselves in relation to that particular election. I'm advised, and I hope that I'm advised by my advisors correctly, that a young woman called Mrs. Cleone Simmons, a young lawyer, has been chosen to contest that particular seat in St. Thomas's. If that information is correct, let me from this rostrum congratulate Mrs. Simmons and wish her all the very best in her endeavors. I always like to see young people coming into the political field. I know some people say they're not interested in politics, but the truth is that politics affects all of us, because the decisions that are taken by governments, the policies that are set, have an impact on us all. And so while people argue that they're not into politics, they're not interested in politics, many people benefit from politics, and then they say they're not into politics. Many people are affected by decisions taken at the political level. And so politics really is important for all of us, because all of us are impacted one way or the other. You may say, well, in my particular area of expertise, the politics is irrelevant to me. I suggest to you perhaps not, because policies that are set for education, for security, for roads, construction, infrastructure, all impact us. And so my thing is that politics is everybody's business. And once I see young people coming in, I always welcome them. I was there at one point as well, many years ago now. It seems a lifetime ago, but certainly there was a time when I was entering the political fray for the first time. So we welcome young Mrs. Simmons and wish her all the very best, to tell her that politics is not easy. It is certainly something that can be very challenging, and she's coming up against the best political machinery that the Caribbean has seen in the Concerned Citizens Movement. So I will let her know that while I wish her well, she could expect that it will be some turbulence in the parish of St. Thomas's in coming days. Let me go quickly to the opening of the Treasury Building. I think that we would all recall that the Treasury Building that housed the heart, really, and soul of the Nevis Island administration was burnt to the ground. And I will not resile from that, because we had a report that indicated, a forensic report, that it was a result of arson. Nobody has ever been brought to justice for that crime. But the government suffered a tremendous setback. And this we all would remember was in the earliest days of the new CCM government when we got into office in 2013. I would want to publicly commend the Honorable Vance Emery, former Premier, and his permanent secretary, now my permanent secretary, Mr. Colin Dorr, because they championed the redevelopment of that area. And they insisted that a new building should emerge from the ashes. And that new Treasury Building has now emerged. And after there's been a lot of chatter, we're finally ready to open it. And so I'm advised that the Treasury Building will be opened on Thursday, this Thursday, at 3:30. So that is 2 days hence. It will be open at 3:30 in the afternoon. We're doing some additional infrastructural work there. I think that the public would realize that the roads are blocked because Public Works is doing the necessary paving. And we are toying with the idea, I'm hoping the press will support it, of making that area in front of the Treasury pedestrian traffic only. So we're working on that, and we are hopeful that we'll get the support of the public. The idea there really is to create, and we think we have created, a landmark structure in the heart of Charlestown. And so we're there. I'm advised that what was painted green is still painted green, and what was painted blue is still painted blue, and what was painted other colors are still painted other colors. Because I recall that there was a huge brouhaha in the country over the color of paint. That is how petty we can sometimes get as we're trying to discuss important matters. I don't know the color of paint on the building will affect the utility of the building, but I'm advised that it looks like the rainbow. So everybody can get some comfort in knowing that the Treasury Building, burnt to the ground, has now emerged from the ashes. Like the phoenix, it has risen. And it is a beautiful edifice. And again, I congratulate the Honorable Vance Emery and Colin Dorr, because those are the two champions of this particular project. Let me move very quickly, because I have, as I indicated, quite a bit of information to convey. This morning, I had the privilege of meeting a young woman called Jadine Yard. Young Jadine has been selected as the new CEO of the Nevis Tourism Authority. I'm advised that she is American-born and has Barbadian and Grenadian citizenship. She has lived in the United States, in Boston and New York, for the majority of her life, before moving to Barbados and working in tourism, marketing, and entertainment. She has been a consultant in both Barbados and Grenada. She has worked with the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. and has been involved in the development of Limitless Concierge Service, which is a Barbadian Grenadian-based concierge service. She has over 10 years' experience in marketing, tourism, and entertainment. She holds a BSc in marketing, and we feel that she brings to the table a creative vision for the future of Nevis's tourism industry, an analytic tourism outlook, a strong digital marketing mindset, and a clear understanding of how important a business digital footprint is. We would want to welcome Ms. Yard to our shores and wish her a productive and successful tenure at the Nevis Tourism Authority. Now, I'm a politician and I understand there's a lot of political chatter. I just want to be very clear that where tourism is concerned, we went through an exhaustive search. I depended on the board, the members of the board, and the members of the board are telling me that they had over 40 applicants for this position. Among them were 7 local candidates, and also persons from many Caribbean countries such as Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, Antigua, the Virgin Islands, St. Lucia, and Guyana, as well as international applicants from the USA, Canada, Europe, and as far away as Dubai. The 40 applicants went through a process. They were shortlisted based on their knowledge of the destination, their background in tourism, their industry experience, and their qualifications. Of the 12 individuals shortlisted, 4 finalists were eventually selected. The board conducted extensive interviews with the finalists, which focused on their vision to go to destination, relevant and creative traditional and digital marketing strategies, proposals for engaging and motivating domestic and international stakeholders, human resource competencies, and the ability to manage limited resources. Ms. Yard replaces Mr. Greg Phillip. Mr. Phillip, as you recall, was the CEO and has resigned, and we were without a CEO for a while, but we want to thank Mr. Phillip for his service. I believe he would have been there since about 2013. So he had a long run, and thank him for his contribution. And we also would want to thank Mr. Devon Libert, who acted as CEO as the search took place. I believe that Mr. Libert was also one of the contenders for CEO, but the board, having done their analysis, made their recommendations as I have indicated. And so I would want to thank Mr. Libert for his interim role, thank Mr. Phillip, and welcome Ms. Yard, and pray that we get the results that we're looking for in relation to tourism and tourism development. Whilst I'm on the issue of tourism, let me indicate that the members of the Tourism Authority, the Nevis Tourism Authority Board, because I recall that perhaps some may not know who the members are, they are Mr. John Hanley, who is our permanent secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, Mr. Richard Lupinacci Jr., the manager of the Hermitage, and junior, not senior, young Richie, little Richie, as we call him. He's a member of the board. Mr. Andre Mokano, who is a member of the board. He is the manager at the Golden Rock Plantation. Mr. Oral Brandy, who is the manager at NASPA. He's a member of the board. Miss Omel Wilkin, whom we all know is an airline expert and works out of the Van Sammer International Airport. She has kindly consented to be a member of the board. And we also have Mrs. Pamela Martin, who is the resort manager at the Nisbet Plantation. And we have confirmed that Mrs. Pamela Martin has been permitted by her hotel and her management and her ownership to also act as chairperson of the NTA. And so we have, I believe, a strong board, a strong NTA, new blood, a new energy, a new CEO, and we're looking forward to good results coming from the interaction and the injection of new blood and new ideas. And so we have an all-local board. We have now a Caribbean national who has taken over as CEO, and we're hoping that we get the results that we're looking for, bearing in mind that tourism is so critical to the economic survival of the island of Nevis. As I continue with tourism, let me please congratulate Oali Beach Resort. They have been recertified under the Hospitality Assured program. Now that is a program that we launched here, and I would want to publicly commend Mr. John Hanley, because he was head and shoulders involved and really spearheaded this effort. It is sanctioned by the CTO, the Caribbean Tourism Organization, and we were able to certify, I recall, 3 properties: Nisbet Plantation, Oali Beach Resort, and it was Nelson Spring. That certification really is a stamp of approval. What it says is that these properties have a mark of excellence for service. And this is something that we have been promoting. We were also able to get staff members at the Ministry of Tourism here in Nevis trained so that they can now do the assessment, and they can do the training. Now, the thing about hospitality, Ministry of Tourism, for more details, if you would like your business to be certified as hospitality assured, and we feel that that would be a good thing for more people to do. Let me switch very quickly to the coronavirus, which has been taking up a lot of the news, and we've been hearing quite a bit about. I would want to indicate that an outbreak of this coronavirus, it's a novel virus, we're told, It started in Wuhan in mainland China, and it has thus far, we're told, had over 2,800 confirmed and suspected cases with 82 deaths. Outside of China, confirmed cases have been reported in 13 countries. The symptoms, very important, include fever, cough, runny nose, chills, muscle pains, shortness of breath. Some persons have mild illness, however, some persons may develop severe symptoms. Up to this point, persons dying from this disease are largely elderly persons and many who had underlying chronic illnesses. On January 24th, officers from the Ministries of Health of both islands, that is St. Kitts and Nevis, met at the Federal Ministry of Health during the morning and with CARFA, which is a regional organization, in an online meeting in the afternoon to discuss the evolving situation as it pertains to the coronavirus. It was decided in both meetings that the health risk to the Federation and region at this time is still low. So the risk at this time is still low. This is for a number of reasons. One, there are no direct flights from China to St. Kitts and Nevis. Two, exit screening is occurring in most major cities in China. Three, entry screening is being done at 5 major airports that receive flights from Wuhan: Atlanta, Chicago, LA, New York, and San Francisco. 4, Chinese authorities have imposed travel restrictions on residents of cities in that province. It was decided at these meetings that we must, in St. Kitts and Nevis, be proactive and prepare for any eventuality. What are our efforts, therefore, thus far in terms of preparedness? We are engaging in public awareness about good personal hygiene practices, because we have found out that coronavirus, they're saying, is spread the same way as colds and flu. And all of us know how colds and flu are spread. All of us have had a cold or flu at some point. And these practices that we're encouraging include washing your hands with soap and running water often throughout the day for at least 20 seconds each time. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick with cold or flu-like symptoms. Stay at home from school, work, and social gatherings when you are sick with cold and flu-like symptoms. Cover your cough and sneeze with a tissue and then discard into the trash. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces. Additionally, we're asking people to cook meat and eggs thoroughly before consumption. We have stepped up surveillance at all of our ports of entry, particularly our airports. On January 27th, the Medical Officer of Health and the Deputy Medical Officer of Health held a sensitization and preparedness meeting with frontline officers at the airport, including immigration, customs, and port security officers and airline representatives. It was emphasized that all incoming travelers will be required to complete question 17 of the immigration form. This question requires that passengers list all countries visited in the past 6 weeks. Additionally, incoming travelers from mainland China will be asked to provide detailed travel history of possible exposure to the virus, and contact information. Increased surveillance has also been initiated at health institutions and procurement of additional supplies necessary for patient management. Healthcare workers are being kept abreast of World Health Organization clinical guidelines, infection prevention and control guidelines, and enhanced surveillance requirements. We are also updating our national pandemic influenza virus preparedness plan to include the new coronavirus infection. This situation, clearly, ladies and gentlemen, is evolving and will continue to provide information. On a personal note, I have been in touch with our ambassador, Her Excellency Jasmine Huggins, our ambassador to the Republic of China, Taiwan, to ascertain the status and the risks to our students who are studying there. Her report is a positive one, that at this point all appears to be well. She's indicated that this is the Chinese New Year, and so most are out of school at this point in time, but she will continue to monitor the situation. There, apparently, they've introduced wearing of masks in public areas, and I gather that the Taiwanese government has banned the export of masks and has said that all mask producers must now produce for the domestic market so that each person in Taiwan can have access to these masks. But they're taking it quite seriously. I'm satisfied at this point that our students are safe. And, of course, Nevis and Nivisions are everywhere, not because we're small, as they say in Jamaica, with Talawa. And so, believe it or not, there's a Nivision woman in Wuhan, China. And I've been in touch with her, and I'm pleased that she is safe, and she also is taking all precautions. And so, we're happy for that. This is the only national that we have discovered who is in Wuhan or in China. If there are others, certainly we would reach out to them in time. Let me segue quickly to agriculture. The Ministry of Agriculture hosted the second annual consultation for agriculture this year under Agenda 2020. The theme was connecting to sustained productivity through communication and responsibility. The event was held at NEPAC and was attended by farmers, industry stakeholders, and a significant number of students. I want to commend the Minister, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, our Deputy Premier, and also the Prominent Secretary, Mr. Huey Sargent, for their continued effort. This was their initiative introduced last year, and certainly it has continued this year, and it is my hope that it goes from strength to strength. Now, I'm very excited by this news, that on the 29th of January, that is tomorrow, Wednesday, at the St. Thomas's Primary School, we're going to have the launch of the ceremony for the planting of 10,000 trees. You would recall that during the budget debates, we indicated that an initiative that the NIA would launch this year is to plant 10,000 trees on the island of Nevis. It is intended, of course, as a greening of the island, not politically, but environmentally. And the idea really is to ensure that the island responds in a very positive way to limit greenhouse gases, and trees, we're told, and we know, provide a very important purpose in the landscape and the environment to clean the air that we breathe. And so we have decided that we will seek to plant 10,000 trees this year, ornamentals and also fruit trees. And the Ministry of Agriculture is leading that charge. They've partnered with Tropical Blossom and the RBM Nurseries, as well as the Brownhill Management Team. And we've also approached our dear friends, the Republic of China and Taiwan, to assist. And we've also approached the Four Seasons to assist. The idea really is to get everybody involved. The homeowners, the churches, the students, the various schools, the hotels, and that we can not only plant but beautify the island, and it is a very important initiative. Now, I'm advised that the Agricultural Department has been preparing for this by growing seedlings. And so they have now quite a number of plants that will be made available to the general public. And so people will be given plants so that you can plant in your own backyard. And the idea is that we get 10,000, if you can get more, fine. But we get to at least 10,000 plants planted in Nevis, fruit trees and ornamentals this year. So if you see some palm trees going up, you see some flamboyant trees going up, etc., that is all part and parcel of the initiative. So I commend again the Ministry of Agriculture for leading on this, and they'll have the launch ceremony tomorrow, Wednesday, the 29th, at the St. Thomas's Primary School. Open Day for Agriculture, one of the must-attend calendar events each year. It will now be the 2 days, of course, the 26th and 27th of March, and it will be at the new location, the ETW Park, since they say that they've outgrown the other venue, and the effort at the ETW Park was quite a grand effort. So it'll be at ETW Park, 26th and 27th March. And so we're asking that you note that. This year, the highlight is that the Republic of China, Taiwan, is sending an entire trade delegation to participate in the Agricultural Open Day. And so we look forward to that. The Nevis Disaster Management Department is also indicating that tomorrow, Wednesday, 29 January, they'll be hosting a panel discussion on earthquake awareness. We all recall that recently our brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico were badly affected by earthquakes, and we've been getting some tremors throughout the region. And so we have responded by having an earthquake awareness seminar on the 29th, that is tomorrow, Wednesday, at the Charlestown Wesleyan Holiness Church. It will begin at 7 p.m. and one and all are invited to be a part of that. Let me switch very quickly. I'm jumping, of course, from ministry to ministry. So let me look at the Ministry of Education. 8 education officials would have traveled to St. Lucia during the week of January 20th to participate in the first education officers meeting for the OECS Early Learners Program. This meeting would have covered content such as teacher professional development, formative assessment of early reading behaviors, curriculum enhancement, monitoring and evaluation, model classroom teacher program, ELP teaching and learning resources, ELP approaches and tools, and school development plan process. So I would want to commend those who were chosen to attend, and of course we hope to see the benefits of their training in our early childhood, early learners program. Schools across the island at the sports season. We know that this is the time when all the schools get very competitive. I'm told that the schools are already in the thick of things. They're having their road relays, their heats, etc. I would want to commend all of the schools and the students, the coaches. I would ask the forbearance and indulgence of the members of the public, particularly the motorists, that they recognize that children are on the roads, they're doing their road relays and cross-country, and that they exercise the necessary care. The Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School started the season. They had their second annual relay festival. It took place on January 17. It was sponsored by A1 Farms. I would want to publicly congratulate the head teacher there, the coaches and the staff, and of course the student athletes for organizing this event. I'm told that this Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School event was very successful. Secondary school students traveled to St. Kitts on Sunday to participate in the annual Giant Moth School Relay Championship and Cheerleading Competition. We, of course, congratulate all those who participated, and we congratulate, in particular, the Charleston Secondary School Lions, who we are told placed second. The Nevis Inter-High School Championship, a collaboration between the Department of Sports and the Ministry of Education, will take place on March 14th and 15th, and the Gulf Insurance Inter-Primary Championship is set for April 1st, 2020. Both events will take place at the Nevis Athletic Stadium. We encourage the general public to continue to support the children and their access to sport and sporting facilities, and we look forward to a competitive season. Let me take a moment to commend and congratulate and say thank you to some donors and corporate partners who have been with us. Dr. Lornette Mills, what more can I say about her? She has really been a giant in terms of giving back to her island home. And through the Lornette Mills Charitable Fund, she's presented a check in the amount of $10,800, that's US $10,800 to the Department of Education. This is an annual donation that she makes. It will go towards providing meals for over 50 students during the course of the school year. The NIA continues to provide nutritious and balanced meals to our children through the Department of Education School Meals Program, and the contribution from our donors is indeed valuable and valued. Sunlink, in partnership with Avaya Circle of Excellence, donated a playground to the St. James Primary School on Friday, 24th January. The staff and students of the St. James Primary School are indeed grateful for this donation, and we publicly thank Sunlink and Avaya Circle of Excellence. Sunlink had also made it possible for the Ivor Walters Primary School to get a playground as well. So this is something that they've been doing, and we hope to see that continue. Regency Assurance Limited donated 63 laptops and projectors to the Department of Education for dissemination to all public and private primary and secondary schools. The integration of ICT is fundamental as we continue to work on the curriculum enhancement and review process and promote differential instruction in our classrooms. So again, we thank those who would have donated and continue to donate. I think that that is significant, and of course we encourage others to do likewise. Let me switch now to the Ministry of Communications and Works. We are very proud, ladies and gentlemen, that the Nevis Water Department is currently embarking on the project that I've spoken about in the past in the Hamilton area. That will see the construction of a new reservoir refurbishing of an old reservoir, and the installation of a water filtration system and the redevelopment of the Hamilton well. That project is now well advanced. Mr. Brand, well advanced. And I'm very pleased with the leadership of the Honorable Spencer Brand. He's a brand new minister, but he's performing like a champion. And he has come and he has done a remarkable job. We have always been talking about the need for more water. And we have a well at Hamilton that produces, we are told, a large quantity of water, but that water was not potable. It was not up to WHO standards. And so what we've decided to do is to install a filtration system which will treat the water and bring the water within the standards that are set by the World Health Organization. And that is what we are seeking to do as a significant investment that has been made. And we are not only therefore going to get additional water into the system, but we recognize that the tanks, they were old and were leaking badly. And so we are doing a new tank, and we're refurbishing the old tank as well to give us greater storage capacity. With the CDB water project that has been done, I think all of us in Nevis have seen the roads dug up and the villages and communities dug up. We have really spent now significantly more than $30 million on water upgrades on the island of Nevis. And I am advised by the good minister, Spencer Brand, and his team, that we now have available water everywhere on the island of Nevis. I was surprised the other day to learn that there was one small pocket, one little community that didn't have potable water, pipe-borne water. We now have it everywhere. And I've just come back from Jamaica, and I'm telling you, we are not to take it for granted. The ability to have running water, to have electricity everywhere is very important. And it shows the planning, it shows the execution, it shows the commitment to infrastructural development that we've seen on the island of Nevis. And so I commend Minister Brand and his excellent team, his permanent secretary, Dr. Stapleton, and others for the job that they're doing here. Now, I want to just, a word of notice, if you will, that as part of the bringing online or bringing on stream the new well, that they will have to do, let me see if I get the language right here. They're saying it will take 2 to 3 weeks to do, and they will have to do a pump test. That is what I was looking for. Now, this involves pumping water into the nearby gut at a rate of 200 to 300 imperial gallons per minute. That's a lot of water. Close to 500,000 gallons per day, sometimes, during the 2 to 3 week period. Mr. Brand, you must try to see if it could be a little less. But the experts are saying that they must do this pump test in order to confirm that the water well is sustainable as when it was first developed a few years ago. Now, this water is going to go into one of our natural guts, as we call it, one of our ravines. And unfortunately, that is a tributary to the Bath gut. So the Bath stream is likely to see some of that water coming along that tributary. We would want to apologize for the inconvenience that this may cause to people who use the Bath stream, but to indicate that the experts are saying that it is necessary to test the well. And so this pump test will occur in the next several days and weeks to ensure that we have what we're looking for, which is a sustainable supply of water. So Minister Brand, if you can tell them to pump a little less so that we conserve some water, because 500,000 gallons per day is quite a lot of water, and we hopefully we see where it goes. Road development, I think all of us would have enjoyed the driving on the new road from Cotton Ground and going there past Cliff Dwellers. As a matter of fact, now, when you leave that highway and you hit the rest of the road, you start to feel a little upset. And so I understand that. I understand that the government has always been challenged in terms of resources, but we have been working on it. And I'm very happy today to say that the project management unit and the Ministry of Public Works are currently reviewing the relevant documents relating to the recommencement, I like that word, the recommencement of the Island Main Road Rehabilitation Project, including the contract designs, etc. As soon as that process is completed, works will commence on Phase 2. And Phase 2, we'll say a bit more about it as we go, but the intention would be that we have that road of that quality continue all the way to Potworks, is it? Libert Hill. Libert Hill. So we will bring more information to you as we go, but I would want to just to say to motorists that additional relief is on its way. I particularly like the new road. You've seen we've marked it properly. It has the speed, what do you call them? Speed, not bumps, but cat eyes. And so if you're driving and you're here in your car going thump, thump, it means that you're too far over. You need to wake up too, I'm told. So that's the idea. But we have done the markings, the road safety signs, and we're again asking motorists, please, to be careful on the road. It is a nice, smooth road, and I think the temptation is to test your speed on your vehicles. Please be careful so that we can avoid tragedy. The NIA, through the Public Works Department, will undertake some civil works in Charlestown to upgrade the Lower Happy Hill Drive, Happy Hill Drive area, going around by Pass Bar, I think, by the waterfront. And we're going to do some concrete drain rehabilitation, removing and replacing some old asphalt on the road surface. In addition, traffic will be restricted on Lower Prince William Street from the medical pharmacy to the waterfront for a period of time to accommodate these roadworks. Access on Market Street will continue. The general public is further advised that the Craddock Road Rehabilitation Project will resume on Monday. Actually, it resumed yesterday. And that work will now go from Big Rock to TDC with the construction of drains, excavation of old road, and reconstruction of the road. Traffic access in the area will be restricted, and again we ask for the patience of the public and the good people of Craddock Road. One of them said to me that he's over 60 years old, and this is the first time that the road is being addressed. And so he's happy that in his lifetime he's able to see this. Kudos again to Minister Brand for his leadership on these significant projects. In Brown Hill, that road, the work there has already restarted. And I say restarted, ladies and gentlemen, because, of course, we tend to shut down over the Christmas season. But that work has already restarted. And Minister Brand has promised that it will be finished soon, so that the people of Brown Hill will have that excellent road available to them. I'm getting there, ladies and gentlemen. Continue to bear with me, please. On the Ministry of Health, we did our annual prostate screening on January 18th, 2020. The numbers this year decreased slightly, but we still had some 614 men showing up for this activity. The Ministry of Health and Gender Affairs once again wants to place on record the profound thanks to Dr. Dwayne Thwaites and his team. Now, prostate screening, of course, is important. It is a way, and particularly for men over 40, it is critical that you get screened. We are at high risk, Caribbean males, black people generally at high risk for prostate cancer. And if you're screened, it can eliminate that risk entirely. I'm advised that prostate cancer is one of those cancers which, if caught early, can be cured. And so we continue to encourage our men folk to take advantage of this free screening that happens. We understand that some people are reluctant. They say that the exam is invasive. It is, but it is only for 2 or 3 seconds. And I think if you can be invaded for 2 or 3 seconds to save your life, it's an invasion that most of us would put up with. So I feel that it is something that we ought to look forward to. If you missed the screening for free, I'm sure you can go to your local doctor and get screened for prostate. So most people over 40 should do it. And some even start at, say, 35. But please get screened. Know your status. Take responsibility for your health. That is very important. Do not wait until something happens and then you spend all your money trying to recover your health. Let us take advantage of these opportunities. The government continues to partner with others to ensure that access to some of these preventative mechanisms is available to us, and we urge you to take advantage of it. Our community nursing services also conducted their pap smear drive at all 6 health centers on Nevis on January 25th. Again, less than the previous years, the numbers this year, but we still had some 113 women that turned out to have this procedure done. We want to thank those who participated and continue encouraging our women to use these opportunities to stay abreast of their status. Our health is our greatest wealth. And let me just take a moment, because I've said it before, the pap smear is so important. because it can tell us at a very early stage whether or not there's any risk of cervical cancer. Cervical cancer, again, is one of those cancers which is entirely curable if caught early. And so we continue to encourage our women folk to take advantage of these free pap smears that are available at our clinics. And if you miss this drive, please, again, go to your local doctor, your OBGYN as the case may be, and get your pap smears done. Know your status, because once you know your status, you can effectively deal with it. The Gender Affairs Department hosted a men's forum on the topic Issues Affecting Men and Boys. Some 51 persons attended, 37 males and 14 females. So we had females attending the men's forum. That is interesting. But the session, we're told, was interactive and went very well, and the department wishes to thank all those involved. The Ministry of Health in St. Kitts and Nevis has restarted the chronic disease risk factor surveys, so people will be coming around again to select households as we get the information so that we can have a healthier nation. Let me just share with you, as I wind down, some statistics. I have here some numbers from the VAT days that we would have had on large ticket items such as vehicles. We are told that 40 vehicles were sold on VAT day. And these are new vehicles. So 40 new vehicles were sold on VAT day last year. TDC, this year they took the lead. They sold 27 vehicles at a value of just over $1 million. Hosford sold 13 vehicles with a combined value of just over $500,000. Those numbers seem a little small to me, Pierce, though. It's, 13 vehicles for $500,000. Maybe the government needs to buy some, because those numbers seem small. But in any event, the total revenue collected by the NIA through customs, duties, environmental levy, etc., during that 2 days was $1.326 million. Significant collection. The total revenue collected by customs during the month of December was $5.237 million. And the overall revenue collected for the year by the Customs Department was $46.784 million. I want to commend the Customs Department. In fact, I celebrated with them at the Zion Chapel. They are celebrating a week of activities. They celebrated on Sunday, International Customs Day, and they are on the front line of revenue collection and also of border security for us. And so I want to commend them. They've had good returns this year in Nevis, $46.784 million. And I'm asking them if they could add a 10 or 15 to that this year. I believe that will be welcome. The total revenue by Inland Revenue Department during the month of December was $5.576 million. And the overall revenue collected for the year by Inland Revenue was $58.987 million. And so again, a good return. But again, I'm asking them if they could add 10 or 15 this year. And of course, we continue to invite our public to be responsible taxpayers, bearing in mind that only through payment of their taxes that the island is afforded the opportunity to develop and to do the roads and the water and the electricity and the healthcare and the education that everybody demands. And so we invite our those who are a little delayed in paying their taxes to step forward, and those who might be in arrears to come to some payment arrangement with the Inland Revenue so that everybody pays their fair share and the government can have the necessary resources to develop the island. Total revenue collected for Nevis for the year 2018, $138.514 million. That figure is on par with the actual revenue of $138.44 million collected in 2018. So 2019 we collected 138.514, and in 2018 we collected 138.44. So we are pretty much the same. I, however, feel that 2019 to have collected on par, in fact, just a little bit more than we did in 2018, is a good sign, because remember, Four Seasons was closed for 4 months. And so we think that it is a good sign that the good people who are on the front lines of our revenue collection, that they have been doing an excellent job, and I want to commend the leadership at Inland Revenue, the leadership at Customs, and encourage them to continue doing their best. Very quickly, 4 students, 2 from the Gingerland Secondary and 2 from the Charleston Secondary. They were the recipients of the Alexander Hamilton Scholarship in early January. Students are Noella Maynard and Stephen Leader of Gingerland Secondary, Kaya Williams Mulrain, and J.L. Swanston of the Charleston Secondary. They received their scholarships award during the annual Alexander Hamilton Tea Party on Friday, January 10, 2020, on the grounds of Alexander Hamilton Museum. The Tea Party is a collaborative effort of the Department of Community Development and the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society. We commend the students and invite others to offer scholarship opportunities to assist students through school. Let me also commend our young talented cricketer Kyan Pemberton. He is currently in Argentina. I didn't even know they played cricket in Argentina, but young Kyan is in Argentina on a cricket assignment. He was invited by Cricket Argentina to assist in coaching cricket at all levels, including the national level, and to play in the domestic 40-over tournament. And so Kyan is there in Argentina, making his name for himself. During his assignment, he will coach both males and females. He will also perform umpiring and scoring duties. And his presence there came through the collaboration between the Ministry and Department of Sports, the Leeward Islands Cricket Board, and Cricket Argentina. He left Nevis on January 23rd, and he will return in early April. So we commend him. We wish him all the very best, Godspeed, and journey's mercies. I am very, very happy about this announcement I'm going to make, and that is that a major swimming initiative has been rolled out on Nevis. A number of people have come together to launch a Swim to Win initiative that is aimed at teaching persons of all ages to swim. I'm thinking that I may mandate the cabinet to join so that all members of the cabinet, and for those who can't swim, all members of the cabinet and all heads of department and permanent secretaries will learn how to swim. You know, it is, ladies and gentlemen, something that's an interesting fact of our island life. A lot of our people can't swim. We are surrounded by water, but a lot of Nevisians cannot swim. And I know that when we lost to Christina in 1970, that for quite a while thereafter, you were told, don't go to the ocean. The ocean was some place that caused death and damage to people. And so a lot of us can't swim, but let me say us, a lot of people can't swim. And so the result of that is that we have decided that we're going to have this swim initiative. And I'm very happy that the Ministry of Youth, Sports, the Department of Sports is very involved in this initiative. They've come together. And we'll have some more exciting news coming, because one of the things that we are hoping to do, and I'll talk more about it, is to have a pool installed in due course here on the island of Nevis, because some people want to learn to swim, but they want a controlled environment. And now the only environment that we have is the ocean. And so we're looking to see how we can do that. But the objective would be, and in fact I'm told that there's some countries where swimming is a mandatory part of the curriculum in school. I think someone suggested to me that Switzerland, you had to know how to swim to graduate. So it's a good sport, it's a good physical activity. They say it's one of the activities that exercises your entire body. But we are making a push here on Nevis, and I'm very happy. So those who want to learn how to swim, the initiative will be launched at Wally Beach on Sunday, on Sunday, January 19th. And it saw the training of 17 local instructors by a US-based facilitator, Miss Ann McClendon, during the period January 20 to 26. So we now have 17 local people trained to train others how to swim. And so the program continued swimming lessons every Sunday during February. The collaborating partners are the Department of Sports, Four Seasons Homeowners Foundation, the St. Kitts Nevis Swimming Federation, Red Cross Special Olympics Nevis, and the Sail to a Brighter Future organization. And so if you cannot swim, no shame. Many people can't swim. So if you cannot swim, I suggest that you take advantage of the opportunity to learn how to swim. I hear people laughing. I know some of them from Hanley's Road, and they can't swim, but they're still laughing at others. But, you know, we will leave it there and move on. Ladies and gentlemen, as I wind up this aspect, I want to move to a topic that is very near and dear to me, and that is the topic of training. Each year, my government offers various scholarships and partnerships with various institutions to offer possibilities and options for training for our people. I was the beneficiary of a scholarship, so I understand the importance of assistance for people to get training. My concern has been that a lot of these training opportunities, having been provided, are not then taken advantage of. I have lamented in the past that I sat with the Moroccan authorities, persuaded them to give us 20 scholarships, and then the following year they said to me, you said you wanted training, that your country needed training, but nobody has applied. We have, regrettably, a number of public commentators who have actively sought to discourage our young people from applying for these scholarships. We hear nonsense arguments. These places are too far. The culture is different. Ladies and gentlemen, my view, and what I would want the press to help us to convey, is that opportunities for education, wherever they exist, ought to be taken. And whilst I understand that some want to go only to the United States and to Canada and to the United Kingdom, the truth is that we now live in a much wider world, bigger world. The world was always big, but it's much bigger now, because with technology, with travel being as it is, we can move now freely. And ask yourself this. Your parents go and borrow money at Development Bank or National Bank or which of the banks? $50,000, $60,000, $100,000. So that you can get a degree in the United States. Monroe, Midwestern. I almost said Best Western, forgive me. Midwestern. Various institutions, nothing is wrong with that. And I keep saying to people, if your family has the money, by all means, go to Harvard, go to Yale. Nothing is wrong with that. But when I hear people discouraging families which will not have the means from letting their children take advantage of these opportunities, it is really regrettable. So you borrow $100,000, you go to Midwestern, you go to Baruch, you go to one of the colleges in America, you go to UVI, for example. You come back, you have that student debt that you have to pay. Take the other student now. He or she takes a scholarship, goes and studies the same business management, but they go on to Taiwan. They go on to Morocco, they go on to Mexico, they go on to wherever a scholarship is available. They come back, they have no student debt. So when you are working every month, paying Development Bank for your student loan, that other person is working every month and paying on a piece of land, getting ready to build a house, buying a car, because they don't have the burden of the student debt on them and their families. And my mother of blessed memory always used to say, beware of people who take you out of bread and can't give you a biscuit. Those old sayings are still current, the wisdom in them. Because a lot of people are telling you, don't take the scholarship. And then you say to them, well, what are you offering as an alternative? And there's silence. Now, if you go to Morocco, you go to Taiwan, you come back with a degree, accredited. You also come back with an understanding of a foreign culture, which is invaluable in today's world. Some of us come back with a new language and new language skills. There's a young man right now in Taiwan, degree. You come back with an understanding of a foreign culture. You come back perhaps with a foreign language skill. And best of all to me, you come back with no debt. No debt. Because it's free. In the old days, they used to say if it's free, take two. Nowadays, I'm hearing if it's free, don't go. You should instead go and borrow money to go. It makes no sense. And I want people to understand that education is not something that, for me, is about politics. All of us in this room, and all of us in this island and in this country have benefited from education. And it is education which is a great equalizer. That's a great equalizer. Some people think it's crime and thieving and badness. No, it's education. Education is what gives each of us an opportunity to rise above the circumstances of our birth and become who we want to be. And so I encourage again, please our people to seize these opportunities. What have we done here? We have the PS of Human Resources here. And we have developed at the Department and Ministry of Human Resources people who are dedicated to this process. So we are trying to create a one-stop shop for young people. To say to you that if you are interested in taking advantage of these opportunities, just come in and talk to the people at Human Resources. They have all the information. They will help you with the process. But for God's sake, I'm begging our people, do not let these opportunities go begging. Do not let them go begging. Let us do. I was in Romania recently, and I was amazed that Romania has been educating people from the rest of Europe for centuries. I wasn't aware that they had such a strong tradition of education, but they do. And we look at countries like Romania who are now leading in areas like IT. We look at countries like India leading in areas like IT. And yet I hear the natural neighbors of extreme negativism. Negativity. Constant negativity. Nurturing neighbors of extreme negativity. Over and over. Telling people, oh, don't go there. That is not good for you. Don't go there. That is not good. Well, if you're taking a man out of bread, you must be able to give him biscuit. And they have neither bread nor biscuit to offer. And so I'm saying to our people, do not let people, and you know the thing that bothers me most, ladies and gentlemen, some of them who are agitating hardest against young people taking advantage, when you check their record, they themselves have taken advantage of scholarships. A lot of them telling you not to go, but they have gone and they have benefited. And how more cynical could it be than you already have your degree, you already have your training, but you're telling a young person not to take advantage of an opportunity to get his or hers. It's a level of cynicism which really bothers me. Because when we come to look at these matters, we don't pick out. We want young people to go. Go and be the best you can be. Go and make something of yourself. So the idea that you stay here and me nah go unless America. Up to last week, 2 weeks ago, I had a situation where a few youngsters accepted the universities in America, but guess what? Can't get the visa. They go Barbados. Can't get the visa. And one of the young men sent me his letter. Significant sum of money from the bank that he has had to borrow. And even with that letter showing his loan approved, his acceptance, U.S. government said no visa. And I said to him, well, why are you going through all of that when there are these opportunities? So please, we have the Erasmus Scholarship, and they're offering master's program, international credit mobility scheme, capacity building projects in higher education, capacity building projects in youth. This is a European Union scholarship, and it affords you an opportunity to work, study, and live in Europe. Then we have the deadline for the Erasmus scholarships range from 5th February to 20th February. So the deadlines are close. We have Romanian scholarships being offered, 85 of them. 85 scholarships are being offered to study in Romania. They've offered these scholarships to the CARICOM region. They're being offered in the following disciplines: political science, administration, education and science, Romanian culture and civilization, journalism, technical studies, oil and gas, agricultural science, veterinary studies, architecture and visual arts. So you want to be an architect? You want to have training in visual arts, veterinary studies? All of this is being offered for free in Romania. The deadline for the Romanian scholarships, 11th of February 2020. Taiwanese scholarships. You have the MOFA, Ministry of Foreign Affairs scholarships. The deadline for application is the 16th of March 2020. And the ICDF scholarships, the deadline is the 2nd of March 2020. The programs for Taiwan cover business management, agriculture, Mandarin, engineering, technology, nursing, and much more. The scholarship benefits include airfare, housing, tuition fees, credit fees, insurance, textbook, stipend, and the monthly allowance. Then we have scholarships from Indonesia. As you all know, we have tried to develop a relationship with Indonesia. In fact, the Deputy Premier would have traveled to Indonesia recently. And Indonesia, a big country, trying to develop a relationship with us. Indonesia is offering scholarships. They call them the Mahasiswa scholarships. They offer to foreign students, and these scholarships include a student's monthly stipend, accommodation and transportation, settlement allowance, local health insurance. Again, the deadline is the 2nd of March. We have the Cuban scholarships. 5 offers for medicine, 1 for stomatology. I'm told, for those of you who don't know what stomatology is, there is no shame, because I had to check it this morning. But it is apparently the study of your oral cavity and diseases that can affect. So it have to do with your mouth. And I suppose some aspect of dentistry. But stomatology. 2 offers in nursing, health technology, and 2 offers in specializations in medicine. So for those who are out there, and I want to encourage those who are doctors, may want to go and specialize. Because, for example, St. News has been struggling over the years with pathology. I'm no pathologist. Every time there's an autopsy to be done, we have been bringing in someone. And so these are areas I think that we can look to and that our young people can look to in terms of advancing themselves. Persons applying for specialization in medicine must be currently at a public health institution in the Federation and should have graduated from a university in Cuba. So those are the requirements that I'm told. The deadline here is the 26th of February. Then, the University of the Virgin Islands, scholarships. The deadline is the 30th of March. And so, we are encouraging our people. You hear how many are called here? Let me go over them again. Erasmus scholarship to study in Europe. Romanian scholarships to study in Romania, 85 of them. Taiwanese scholarships, MOFA and ICDF. Indonesian scholarships. Cuban scholarships. UVI, University of the Virgin Islands. And there's one last one, India. Now, I sat with the High Commissioner of India, based out of Guyana. And I said to him that India needed to do more. And we would recognize that last year, at the margins of the United Nations, the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Modi, he held a summit with CARICOM leaders. And flowing from that is India's stated desire to have a closer relationship with the Caribbean. So bootstrapping that, I said to the High Commissioner that what is India doing in terms of training for us? We have moved, ladies and gentlemen, from 3 slots to 10. That was the result. From 3 to 10. So more than a tripling of opportunities for training in India. A lot of that training is not necessarily at the degree level. Talk to the good people there at Human Resources, right here at the Social Security Building here at Pinnis. So lots of scholarships on offer, lots of opportunities. And let me just say that this has nothing to do with the government's own program. Because separate and apart to all that I've said, the Nevis Island Administration each year invites applications for persons for assistance. It may not be a full scholarship, but hundreds have benefited thus far from the initiative. And each year we look at the applications. We have our areas that we're prepared to support based on the needs of the island. And these are areas that we would invite. And I'm sure Human Resources would no doubt, in short order, send something out publicly to invite people to apply for assistance from the NIA as well. And so there are a host of opportunities, and we encourage our young people to take advantage. Do not let anybody dissuade you. If a man who already has his education is dissuading others who do not yet have it, then something is wrong with that man. And so I encourage our young people to take advantage of these opportunities. The Ministry of Human Resources will host its annual orientation workshop for recently employed public servants on Friday, 14th of February, 2020. The topics to be covered include Social Security, government insurance, and the rules and regulations governing the public service. The Ministry of Education, Library Services, and Information Technology, the Premier's Ministry, and the Ministry of Human Resources will hold together jointly their second annual congratulatory reception It's a nice name, for returning university graduates on Saturday, 29th February 2020. This year we'll be honoring the 2019 returning graduates who have first degrees, PhDs, master's degrees, as the case may be. All 2019 graduates are kindly asked to contact any one of the above mentioned ministries. Now you may ask, what is this about? Again, it is our way of showing this government's commitment to education and to excellence. And these three ministries have collaborated last year to introduce this cocktail and award ceremony for our new graduates. When some of us would have graduated, there was no such thing in place. But we want to recognize them. We want to thank them for taking the step that they took, for going off, for getting their education, and for coming back to try and help us build Nevis. And we want to say to them that they must become now role models for others, to encourage those youngsters who are coming through to do likewise. And so we have put that in place, and I feel that it is indeed an excellent initiative. I have two small items left, and then I will open the floor to questions. Firstly, I wanted to share with you that we have had some numbers in from NASPA, our Nevis Air and Seaports Authority, and we continue to see significant passenger movements at our facilities. That is movements between St. Kitts and Nevis. For the period November 2019 to January 12th, 2020, we had total passenger movement at our Oahu pier of 25,533 persons. Let me say that again. 25,533 persons. November, December, middle of January. So 2.5 months. I think that is significant. And then in Charlestown, for the same period, we had passenger movements of 73,981 persons. 73,981. November, December, mid-January in Charlestown, 25,533 at Oahu. What that tells us is that there is a robust interaction, trade, moving of people between St. Kitts and Nevis, tourists and others, and these numbers, I think, as a consequence, are significant. It shows that movement, it shows the development, it shows the interaction, and how the two economies of the two islands are intertwined. I think that is very important also because, let us remember, that we don't have in these numbers a sea bridge, for example. So the numbers are in fact higher than what we've indicated here. 2018, similar numbers were for November and December 2018, 26,320 and 32,950 respectively. So the numbers continue to be very robust, and we are thankful for that. And the pier at Oahu, criticized by some, but I think that we are seeing the benefits of it. I end, ladies and gentlemen, with the recent meeting held in Jamaica between Secretary of State, the United States Secretary of State Michael Pompeo, and certain foreign ministers in the region. The foreign ministers that were invited and that attended were St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Jamaica was the host, that's 3, Dominican Republic 4, Haiti 5, Bahamas 6, and Belize 7. And we were afforded the opportunity to meet with Secretary Pompeo to discuss a wide range of issues, and I was afforded an opportunity to have a bilateral discussion with him. So we had a round table where everybody would be present, and then we had a bilateral discussion where I spent perhaps a half an hour with him raising issues that were pertinent to St. Kitts and Nevis and the relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis and the United States. I think the meetings went well. I confess that the media portrayal of Secretary Pompeo was very different to the Secretary Pompeo that we met. He was very generous with his time. He knew very well the region and the issues impacting the region. And he said something which I thought was profound. He said he had come to listen, and that he wanted to hear from us how we can better the relationship between the Caribbean and the United States. There has been a lot of chatter, I'm aware, a lot of discussion about this meeting, but I think that when a small country like St. Kitts and Nevis is afforded an opportunity to meet with the largest and most powerful country in the world at the highest levels, I think that it is important for us to seize that opportunity and to articulate the views and opinions, not only of St. Kitts and Nevis, but of the region. And so that is what we sought to do. I will now invite questions, if there are any. If there are none, then we'll end the press conference early. It appears there may be one. So good morning, Ms. Washington from the Observer.
Good morning. Monique Washington, St. Kitts Nevis Observer newspaper. In light of the Honorable Joseph Parry's retirement, will the NIA continue to pay for the office at Nelson Spring? Is there an update on the Pennies Park? And we're going to go back on BNL. It's almost a year. And every time we come here, we are being told that there is no update. There is no update, there is no update. Yet still, we were told that they were given 6 months to come up with the financial backing. And if they don't, then the NIA will terminate with them. Well, 6 months has passed. Another 6 months is coming up. We want to know what is the outcome, what is happening. Has it been terminated? Have they come up with the financial backing? What is the update on this? And the hospital isn't finished as yet, of course, everybody can see that. But my question is, being that they might have some time between the hospital finishing from now until it's open, what are the NIA's plans when it comes to sourcing machinery or diagnostic machinery to put in the wing? Training staff, training doctors, nurses that will go along with this big wing, diagnostic wing for the hospital. Are persons already out there being trained? Are the machines already being sourced and things like that? And hotels, when it comes to the hotels on Nevis, we've heard about all the hotels that are coming and yet still we're not seeing anything. What is the government's position, or what will the government's position be this year to ensure that persons that say we're coming with a hotel, that they do it or they don't do it? And we have been getting some complaints from residents in Church Ground about the roads. They're saying that traffic can come one way, and if traffic is facing each other, one side have to stop. They can't pass each other. They're seriously complaining about the road damage there. Are you looking into fixing the road in Church Ground for the people? And I think that's about it.
Okay, so let me start where you ended. I don't know about any road damage in Church Ground. The reality is, Ms. Washington, that the roads in Church Ground have been narrow, and they haven't just become narrow. They've been narrow since I've known myself. And the last time I checked, that was some 51 years now, they've been narrow. And I'm sure they've been narrow before I knew myself, and others here would have known themselves. Rohan, the Minister of... I'm trying to get his attention because he's a little bit older than me, and I'm sure he would say that the roads in Church Ground have been narrow. So we understand that, but I don't want it to be suggested that the roads have been damaged, because that is not the case. The roads are narrow. By nature, they're narrow, and that is how they've been. We have to look at that. The complaints have come to me as well, so I'm very well aware. We have done now a portion that takes us from Braziers up to Church Ground, but I think the road you're talking about is the other part of that road that would take you from the Island Main Road across into Church Ground proper. So that is something we need to look at. It will require quite a bit of engineering and quite a bit of work and effort there because of how the road has been over the years. We would certainly have to do some land acquisition as well to get that road to a width that would be acceptable. So I am very, very aware of the concerns of the people of Church Ground, but to say to them that, like other areas in Nevis that are clamoring for roads and new roads and better roads, we're getting there. And I believe that if commentators are fair, they will say that we have really been doing a tremendous amount in terms of roads. The problem is that, as I mentioned, the Island Main Road, I can't even remember how the old road used to feel, because the new road feels so good. And once people get accustomed to it, that becomes the norm. And so people say, well, this other piece of road needs fixing too, because my car now comes off this smooth part and I start to hit some bumps. So we understand that roads and road construction is important, and we will get there. The people of Church Ground are very important to me personally, so they can have my assurance that we will be looking at that. Hotels in Nevis, you raise an excellent point. I have said time and time again here that I am concerned because a lot of time is spent with proposed developers. They come, they take up the cabinet's time, they have meetings with our technocrats, they propose projects, they get a package of concessions, and then 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, sometimes longer, we don't see any movement. And so I share the concern and the frustration. What we've started to do now is to give, I think it's 18 months to developers to say that that is a period of time that they have, barring which their concessions will lapse. And they'll have to come back to the government to reapply, at which time we will assess whether or not this is a serious development and whether or not the reasons are serious enough. If not, then we ask them to go their merry way so that they don't waste our time and we don't waste theirs. Machinery training for the hospital, you're absolutely correct. I perhaps ought to have given an update in my early statement, but we have already started that process. The various heads of the various departments have been meeting. An equipment list is being produced. We have reached out to our friends in the Republic of China, Taiwan, who have indicated a willingness to assist in the procurement process. So we have already done that. And then in terms of training, I think I would have said in the past that we have been training people in Taiwan of things like dialysis, nurses, dialysis, the doctors who deliver that service, and that is part of the overall kidney and renal care program that we've developed. So yes, we have been training so that when we get ready, we have the necessary equipment and personnel in place. The project, last report I got, has been proceeding very nicely. The contractors are at a very good stage. Everything is on target in terms of the time frame, and we expect that project will really be a quantum leap forward for healthcare on the island of Nevis. So the hospital is, you're right, not yet finished, but it is not yet scheduled to be finished. There's work in progress. The outer shell is going to be done, and then, of course, the interior work is quite technical work. It's not like building a house. For example, the labs that are going to host things like radiology, the CT scan and things like those, they have apparently special walls and roofing that they must have. So all of that is being done, and we have specialists that we've contracted to take care of all of that so that we have a proper project at the end of the day. Not just a building, but a building that's fit for purpose. So that is on target. Joseph Parry, we never created an office for Joseph Parry. So whether Joseph Parry comes or goes doesn't affect the office. What we did was create an office for the leader of the opposition, bearing in mind that nobody was constitutionally qualified to take up that role. We nevertheless extended the courtesy to Mr. Parry as the only elected member of the opposition. We have noticed, and I will say it publicly, that the Nevis Reformation Party appears to be using that office as a campaign headquarters. And I want to sound a warning very loudly here that I will have none of it. The CCM has no office that is paid for by government. And so the NRP can't expect to have an office that is paid for by government. The government has no budget to pay for political parties to have an office. That's a matter for them. What we have provided is an office for the opposition, which is a formal office where the elected member, let me emphasize that, of the opposition can receive, for example, dignitaries who come to meet, as the case may be. Now, as I said, we could have taken a view that it will only be provided to the leader of the opposition, in which case there will be no office at all, because nobody qualifies. We, however, figured that the NRP has a representative in the parliament and that we should provide an office, and we did so. And Mr. Parry occupied that office. But I see children's Christmas party organized over there. I see consultations. I understand that the NRP candidate in one of the areas is now claiming to be having consultations for the first time in 20 years. He wants to know what the people have to say. So he's having consultations, but using that office. And my simple advice to the NRP is this: do your politics, that is fine, but find your offices wherever to do them. That office is not going to be paid for by us to be a campaign headquarters for the NRP, and I want to make that clear. And I want the public to understand, if I am the leader of CCM and I am the Premier of Nevis, and CCM has no office paid for by the government, I don't see why the opposition should have one. So, I say that plainly because that is the way we feel. BNL, you are absolutely correct. Every time you come, I tell you I will have an update the next time, and I will tell you now again I'll have an update the next time for you. What is happening there is that you're right. We did give 6 months for them to show that they're able to raise the necessary money. I myself have not had an update. And as I was coming here this morning, I know the legal advisor sent me something on the matter, but I did not get an opportunity to address it. And so, Ms. Washington, you've been particularly interested in this. Perhaps you can call me, and I can give you an update in the next few days, rather than waiting for the next monthly press conference. That might be better, and I'll be able to tell you. The park at Pinners, the work is ongoing already. There's no work there physically, but we are growing the necessary plants already. The nursery for the Taiwanese is in full effect in preparing the plants. The EIA is being finalized because we indicated that we needed that. The contracts have been signed, of course, for the construction. They were proposing to have the barricades put up already, but I've asked them not to until we're ready, because we understand the area is used for parking and things like that. So I said, let us wait until we're ready to do the actual construction, and they've indicated that we should see construction very soon. So I would say within a month, we should see activity down there. Mr. Hanley, February, by March, we're told that we should see the actual construction on the ground there. So we expect that that is going to happen. But I can tell you that a lot of work is happening. I was just recently presented with the final drawings for the proposed construction. But and you may find this amusing. The final drawings, because they're being done by the Taiwanese, were in Mandarin. So we are waiting now. We have to wait, I think, an extra week as they translate it now into English, because the designs, the park designs, were done by the experts. So simple things like that. But I can assure you, Ms. Washington, the work is underway, and that we will deliver on that particular project.
Morning, Mr. Premier.
Morning.
Master Salih from Fun Radio. Just a follow-up. Well, we also have interest in the BNL project at the airport, so hopefully we can get some update from
Yes.
you. I know you mentioned about Ms. Washington and interest. The other thing, the upcoming by-elections. Well, I know you mentioned that the Peace Reformation Party has named their candidate. We haven't heard anything from the Concerned Citizens Movement. We
Yes.
expect to name it. But you have the prerogative, and it's your constitutional duty as the Premier to, as I say, ring the bell,
Yes.
to set that election date. We can get any information in that regards, how soon that by-election will take place.
Well, we know it has to happen within 90 days.
We did 90 days. Yeah.
We have not yet addressed our minds to a date. When that date is, sometimes you have to meditate on these things, and when the date comes, it comes,
Well, you have that normally you have it in the back pocket, so.
I don't have it in my back pocket yet.
Okay.
So I'm meditating on it and taking some advice, and we will have a date. I think if the effective date of Mr. Parry's resignation was the 31st of December, and it means that we have until, what, March?
Yeah.
10th of March? End of March, or thereabouts, to call it. So we'll see. We also, of course, have the possibility of a federal election that is looming as well. So we have to be very careful in terms of how we manage this. But we will have a date, and the date will be within the constitutionally prescribed time, and we will have a candidate I think,
yeah.
who will have an opportunity to take that seat. I believe the people of St. Thomas's recognize that electing someone to put them on the opposition benches is frankly a waste of time. No, but I'm being honest. It's a waste of time. At this point, this is not a general election. This is a by-election. The people have already spoken in 2017 in a general election. And they gave 4 seats to the CCM and 1 seat to the NRP. The man who had that 1 seat said the pressure is too much for him. He gone. So we now have, we are told, a young lady. And while I wish the young lady well, the people over there must say to themselves, well, are we going to vote to elect somebody to put them in opposition? In a general election, you're voting to elect a government. And at the end of the tally, we know whether you've got the government or not. In this case, if you vote for this candidate, you know that if you vote for the NRP candidate, you are voting to put somebody on the opposition benches. How will that bring development? How will that bring the voice of the people of St. Thomas's to the cabinet? When I'm sitting in the cabinet, and the deputy premier started to kick up about St. James, he want this, he want that. And the Honorable Minister Eric Evelyn started to kick up about Gingerland. You see how much he get up in Gingerland recently? He come in and he, you know what I mean, he agitate. Don't bother talk about Minister Brand when he starts up.
Yeah, but that's
Right?
what living in a democracy calls for.
But I'm saying, if you have somebody from St. Thomas's, so when Minister Brand started to say he want this road in Stony Grove, somebody said need something in Barnesgate. I am saying to the people of St. Thomas's, they have an opportunity. Send somebody to the cabinet. Send somebody to the cabinet.
Okay, I have a couple other issues. Well, one of the things, I know there was talk about the banning of plastics.
Yes.
And I know mention was made about some legislation. Was the progress on that legislation about the banning of plastics?
Well, we have not yet reached a point of legislation. I think that initially Nevis has indicated its desire. We did that since the throne speech, so that's 2 years ago. We recognize, however, that Nevis is difficult for Nevis to do it on its own. St. Kitts and Nevis have to do it together. I think there's been some movement in St. Kitts on that. What we're trying to do this year in Nevis is as a matter of policy, right? We already have some momentum for it. I've made the announcement that we would like to introduce that ban, and we see that some of the restaurants, hotels have voluntarily decided. I have already asked Mr. Dorr, PS Dorr, and the people at our supply office to source replacement materials so that we get, instead of plastic, paper straws. But you go to most restaurants now in Nevis, they're using paper straws. They've adjusted. So what we're trying to provide, Mr. Lee, on this is some leadership. Just as we're planting 10,000 trees, we're providing some leadership so that people understand that environmentally it's important not to use the plastics and the styrofoams.
Okay, let me just ask a couple others and I'll take a seat because I need to get on my feet. You mentioned about the road, rehabilitation projects. There was no mention made of the Bath Village Road. What's the status on that? The other thing as it pertains to road, the traffic. There has been a significant increase in traffic, as everyone would recognize in Nevis. What is being done and what plans does the government have to address that? Because traffic is a nightmare. It's becoming a nightmare. And I know you mentioned some figures. Everybody impressed with the number of vehicles coming in, but that also creates some other issues. I know sometime last year, there was something put in place to deal with the traffic, and that was quickly taken off. I know people complained, so that was quickly taken off. A couple of roads were made, one and that kind of stuff, and that was quickly taken down. So I want to know what's the government position on that, and what are they doing to address the issue of traffic. And finally, the peace initiative. I think I'll use one of your jargon. There's a lot of chatter about this peace initiative. Insofar as the funds, where the funds coming from, the payment, or how much is involved in that payment, and I know it does mention that some of the guys have got involved in some businesses. If you care to tell us, if you know what sort of businesses are they involved in, because there's a lot of talk about this peace initiative and what is going on.
Okay, Mr. Lee, thank you very much for your questions. I don't really bother with all the talk about the peace initiative. You know why? Because we have year after year after year in this country counted the cost in terms of murders and the deaths of our young people. I think in 2011 we had the shame in this country of having 35 murders, the most in the history of St. Kitts and Nevis in any 1 year. And we have regularly had 20-odd, 30, that kind of number. In 2018, in fact, we had 23 murders in the Federation, 5 in Nevis. In 2019, after we introduced this peace initiative, that dropped from 23 to 12. And Nevis dropped from 5 to 2. I don't care what people say. The results speak for themselves. And that is what we must look at. People are now all of a sudden, everybody's on export. People who could not solve the problem for the last 25 years. All of a sudden now they're exports. They're asking all this and that. The results speak for themselves. And when the central bank is going to say that the economy of St. Kitts and Nevis is likely to surge as a result of this peace that we're enjoying, I say to God be the glory. What could be the opposition to that? 5 people were murdered in Nevis in 2018. 2019, 2. And I'm praying with the grace of God that 2020 is 0. Who would be opposed to that? Now people talk about money being spent. And yes, money is being spent. They say money is being given away. That is not true. I am not aware that any money is being given away, but money is being spent. What is it being spent on? Providing opportunities to some of these youngsters who felt that they had been left behind. And the result of them being left behind was that they must go and rob and kill and commit crime. And so we have spent money in Nevis, for example. I know there's a group of youngsters who are doing some farming. The government has provided some fencing wire. We have gone ahead and plowed the area for them. I recall some of them are saying they're going to burn charcoal. We provided them with some chainsaws. So yes, money is being spent. We're trying to equip them with tools so that they themselves now could provide for themselves and their families. Is that controversial? Perhaps. But again, what are the results? What are the results? We have had a class of people in the society who have been left behind, left out. Whether the school system failed them, the home system failed them, we don't know. But we know what the results have been, and the results have been anarchy and chaos in our streets. We can only put our minds back, Mr. Lee, to February of last year, where in the space of 5 or 6 days, I believe we had 7 murders, if my memory serves. Every morning you woke up, another one gone, another one gone. And we took a position that that could not continue. And the results are there. And I'm prayerful and hopeful that those results continue. The head of our police in Nevis is here, Superintendent David. He knows the level of work that they've been putting into this. He knows the level of effort that has been put into the security forces and to try to get us to a stage now where you and I feel more comfortable. We had the biggest culture armor in the history of this island of Nevis was culture armor 45. Not a single incident. I go in town on a Friday afternoon and the youngsters are there. When I see some of them, I say, but these used to be sworn enemies. They're there dapsing and drinking and togetherness. What could be the criticism of that? What could be? So I see people trying to denigrate and but you ask them, what is the alternative and what was the position when you were there? And the answer is that there was carnage in our streets. And so for me, we have to, when people say money is being spent, assess, well, what is the cost of a life? What is the cost of a young man dying prematurely? Leaving children without a father? Right? What is the cost of that? And so the concern that we have is that it's almost as if there's some who are saying that what is happening somehow is too good. Some youngsters are benefiting and therefore there's a problem. And I want to say here very clearly, Mr. Lee, that the country is going to pay one way or the other. So the country must decide how it pays. We have been paying in blood. That language might be inflammatory, but we have been paying in blood. And if we can stop that and use a different way, I welcome that. Each year our national security budget has been increased. And we have been spending money on police, on cars, on police stations, and all of that. This is the first time that we have seen the type of dramatic reduction in crime. And my view is that we must press on with it, and we must ignore the noise and focus on the results, because these are results that augur well for you and I and everybody else. The traffic is growing. People are trying to get a vehicle of their own. We understand that. We understand that the point you've raised is a very important point. Environmentally and otherwise, we must look to see where we are in terms of traffic. We have problems of parking. We have indicated to property owners in Charlestown that they can make their lots available for parking and they will have the government support. So we continue to encourage that. We've seen some islands like Bermuda. They have a one car for family rule. We don't think that we are yet at that stage where we need to introduce that. But it's something that we must monitor. And I think the question is an important one in terms of what we're doing. The one-way streets, I think the police had gone ahead and made an announcement. We had asked that there be a bit more consultation on that to make sure that when these things are put in place, that they work. And that is why the police have held for the moment in relation to the implementation of some one-way routes in Charlestown. I mentioned, for example, that we would like pedestrian traffic only by the new Treasury Building. That's a matter we'll have to discuss with the police and with the public to get buy-in for that. But we're looking at it, but we recognize that it is a difficult question sometimes, because a man who walk in and he wants to get a little car and to make his life a little easier, he has a night job as a security officer somewhere, he wants to get back and forth. It's a little difficult to tell him no, that he cannot get a car. So we are trying to see how we can look at this, and I believe that while we're not yet at the tipping point, it is a matter that has to be looked at. Bard Village Road, I neglected to mention that earlier, but it's a road that we're certainly looking at this year as well. I think we have made some provisions for it. The design phase we'll have to complete, and that will be the upper part of Bard Village, because we've already completed the low way, as we call it, in Bard. So I hope that those are all the questions, and I would have answered them as best as I can.
So just a follow-up on the PCDC, because I know you mentioned and you just mentioned the national security budget. Those funds are from the national security budget. The reason I'm asking is that we are bombarded with questions by the public. People keep asking what is they want to know, but we can't provide the answers.
But
so that what I'm asking is in terms of monetary allocations, as you said, does that money come from the national security budget?
Yes, of course, the monies come from the government.
And in terms of a figure, you wouldn't be able to give us a figure now?
For the peace initiative particularly, not. I don't have those numbers, no. Those would have to come from the Prime Minister as Minister of National Security. But the money is coming from the government, from the Citizenship by Investment Program inflows, from the government budgetary allocations. This is where the monies are coming from. And those monies, I feel, are being put to good use. What is the value in putting the money in the bank and everybody getting shut up in the street? Right? Put the money to work, and the results, as I said, are indicative that the money is working. Yes.
Good day to everyone present, everyone listening and viewing. My name is Skinny James of KISS FM. Mr. Premier, it's good to see you again in good health.
Good seeing you as well, brother.
I just wish to point out something you said, the swimming initiative. That is a very, very brilliant idea, as both islands are surrounded by water. I totally agree with you. That's something that should be in the school curriculum, and I expect to see you pushing for that. Also, you spoke about the scholarships. Education should not be politically motivated. We all know this. But some persons might argue that if they apply, they might get turned down. To those individuals, I would say apply, and if you get turned down, come right here and ask Mr. Premier Brantley why. All right? Just saying. So no, I don't warm you up because you look serious. You look like you're ready for me today. Okay, that's good. You have proceeded to make Nevis in your eyes the best it has ever been. However, persons are saying that if you were to build a cruise ship pier that ships could dock here in Nevis, that would cement your legacy further. Are there any plans in the near future for this? I spoke about your legacy. And another question that's being asked is, there are whispers that if the Team Unity government were to win a next election, that you, Premier Brantley, are highly favored over the current Prime Minister to lead the Team Unity government. Is there any truth to this? Would you like to see yourself personally as the Prime Minister of the Federation, or is being the Premier enough for such a great man as yourself? Last question. Last time I was here, I spoke about the St. James Raceway and the possibility of private individuals taking it over to some extent. So this move has been put in place as a group of us have come together and started putting ideas together. And there's a fundraiser on February the 8th at the Villa Grounds, which I'm inviting everyone here to come and everyone listening. Are you aware of this? And can we still expect help from the government somewhat in this venture? And also there's a letter that will be dropped to your office today about this.
Okay, thank you very much. I will.
Kindly be seated. A pleasant morning to all and a happy new year to all of you. This is the first of the Premier's press conference for the year 20.
Said there's a fundraiser. So,
So
if,
you want government funding?
no, you come, you pay your fee, you come in, you take a few
Oh, so I see.
pictures,
So but that's not government. You want me to attend? That's what you're
Well,
saying. You invited me.
you are the government. So if you're there, you know what I mean?
All right.
You being there alone might just encourage people to
All right.
come. You are
Okay.
that kind of man.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your confidence in me. The raceway is something, as I said, we are very open to proposals or suggestions as to how we can make it better. We have what we have there. We have invested. We met a raceway. We have invested more money in it since to try and improve safety. But I think more can be done. And certainly, if there are private partners out there who are willing to step forward, it's something that we're minded to look at. So I'm happy to hear that you've put together a group, and we hear what the group has to say. The cruise ship pier, that's a issue that keeps coming up over and over. I don't have an answer for you at this point. It is something that we would have to keep revisiting. The position that Nevis has traditionally taken is that St. Kitts has a very robust cruise industry, and that we see little value in competing with that our industry in terms of tourism is different. In fact, in my meeting this morning with the new CEO at the NTA, I indicated to her that our brand is really a boutique high-end brand, where, as I say all the time, we prefer to get 100 visitors paying $1,000 a night than 1,000 visitors paying $100 a night. Qualitatively, it's a different type of product that we offer in Nevis. And so we understand that the taxi drivers in particular, they look across, they see 20,000 people in St. Kitts today, and naturally they say, well, we need to do more. We have been doing more this year because we've more than doubled our cruise arrivals this year. The hope would be that that continues, that trend continues. But in terms of the investment in infrastructure, I believe that you would recognize that the investment that is required is significant. Just on the new pier in St. Kitts, I believe they've spent north of $30 million on that particular pier. So the reality is that we would have to make a decision, first of all, is that what we want for Nevis? And having taken that decision, we'll then have to say, what direction do we go in terms of financing and funding that? And naturally, the question would be if Carnival Cruise Lines is going into St. Kitts, which is literally 2 miles away from Nevis, do we expect them to come to Nevis as well? Or rather, do we develop synergies between the two islands, where rather than trying to compete, because that's what we'll be doing with St. Kitts, we benefit from the upsurge in cruise arrivals that we see in St. Kitts. St. Kitts currently benefits tremendously from the land-based tourism we have in Nevis, because 90% of our guests are coming through RLB. And so when you hear about airlift numbers into St. Kitts increasing, a lot of that is due to the stay-over activity on Nevis. Equally, the businesses popping up in Nevis that are benefiting from the upsurge in cruise in St. Kitts, because we see people coming over, day trippers, the catamarans are bringing people. We have people like Randy at Lime Beach Bar, who's developed a robust business on the beach from that. So it might be that there's no need to develop a cruise facility if you can develop greater synergies between the two islands. But we will see. I'm not ruling it out. I'm saying that the traditional position of Nevis has been that we focus on what we're good at, and what we're good at is heads in beds and giving people a remarkable experience on Nevis. Our properties are small, as you know. The capacity is small, but we offer a higher end of service and quality and price on Nevis. And that has paid good dividends for us. If we are to segue now into cruise, we'll have to make a very deliberate decision on that, and I believe that that will have to come from some pretty robust public consultations. So we will look at it. I haven't ruled it out, but it's a matter that clearly will require some consideration and some consultation. Legacy, I think that as a politician and at my stage now as a politician, it's far too early to talk about legacy. I think that people's legacies are normally defined for them, not by them. We do the best we can, and then it's up to other people to determine whether that best was good enough. I too have heard a chatter about Prime Minister and all of this, but that, again, my personal, sort of aphorism is to ignore the noise. And I recognize that a lot of this chatter is designed to be a distraction. I'm very focused on what I need to do. I think the party that I lead, we are very focused on governing the island of Nevis, trying to provide the best that we can, provide opportunities for our people, better health care, better infrastructure, better security, better education. And we, when the time comes, will contest 3 seats on Nevis, and we hope to win all 3. We hope the people of Nevis would have seen in us the type of steady leadership that they need. And that is what we intend to do. That will be for another forum to talk about, no doubt, but we'll launch our candidates pretty soon, and it will be off to the races. I think once that's done and we have our seats, then we're prepared, as we have been prepared, to contribute those seats to the formation of a government so that we can continue the good work that we have had and continue to have in St. Kitts and Nevis. Again, let me just refer quickly to my trip to Jamaica, because when I was in Jamaica, I was very proud at the prominence that St. Kitts and Nevis now has in the Caribbean. And I don't say that lightly. People are talking about us and marveling at how is this little island doing so well? How is it that the economy is moving? And more I'm hearing people there saying that they have relatives. In fact, we went out one evening and the driver for the foreign minister of the Bahamas, I shared his car going to a particular event, and the driver introduced herself and said that her sister was living in Nevis. And it is a far cry from where Jamaicans used to be. Because when I lived in Jamaica many, many years ago, you know, when Jamaicans talk, they talk about going to the US, going to the UK, going to Canada. You know, have them coming here. And that is because the perception of St. Kitts and Nevis out there is that we're doing well. The economy is doing well. It's a stable environment, and that is something. I mean, Pompeo, Secretary of State Pompeo spoke. He addressed the Jamaican public. He had a forum hosted by himself and the Jamaican Foreign Minister, the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith. And I thought it was interesting because Secretary Pompeo spoke about the connection between the Caribbean and the U.S. and to establish and provide evidence of that connection. He gave 2 examples. One was of a youngster called Mr. Thomas, I think, who was in St. Kitts. He says an IT expert that the U.S. has worked with, and he credits the U.S. involvement with this youngster to bring the youngster to the point where he is now. And the second reference he made was to Alexander Hamilton of Nevis. And afterwards, my Jamaican colleagues says only St. Kitts and Nevis the man could have found to talk about a Caribbean connection, because both examples that he used were St. Kitts and Nevis. And it shows the importance. The mere fact, I think, that we were at the table shows that in their eyes as well, St. Kitts and Nevis is an emerging, powerful voice in the region, which for us is important in light of our size. So we're punching well above our weight, and I think that is and will continue.
Good day, Premier Brantley.
Good day.
Glenn Barth from SKN.
Yes,
Newsline.
Mr. Barth.
I'm glad you were talking just a while ago about Secretary of State of the United States of America, because my question to you really was along those lines. There's a line of thought that the United States under President Trump has been engaged in a practice of trying to undermine the CARICOM region, or let us say divide the CARICOM region, and basically for his purposes in terms of getting support in his plans or policies in relation to Venezuela. There's also another line of thought that says that the CARICOM itself is dividing on its own based on political differences, based on ideology, and that CARICOM has departed, in a sense, from its roots, if you want to call it that. What is your perception of CARICOM as Minister of Foreign Affairs, as the Premier of Nevis, in terms of your experience dealing with the United States and the CARICOM region and with various CARICOM leadership within CARICOM itself.
Mr. Bart, before you go, are you married? I'm just curious. You're married?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Right.
Okay. Thank you. I'm married too. I encourage all of these youngsters here to get married. The reason I ask you if you're married here, because in my household, it's not always smooth sailing. And I'm sure in yours, I'd be presumptuous to say it's not always smooth sailing. So if between husband and wife, you could sometimes have differences of opinion, and you all live together, sleep in the same bed, eat out the same pot, then CARICOM is 14 countries. You don't think that sometimes there will be differences of opinions? I think that people are asking for utopia. People seem to assume that because you're in the Caribbean, there's a oneness and a sameness. And that is not simply practical. You have within the European Union, you have within any African Union, you have differences of opinion sometimes. The question I think we should be focused on is whether or not we are united in terms of our approach to issues that matter. And on the issue of Venezuela, which is an important issue in this hemisphere, we have a situation where CARICOM has arrived at a position. Now, individual members in CARICOM have articulated different viewpoints, but CARICOM itself has arrived at a position. As far as I'm aware, the position was articulated in Bastia at the intercessional that was held there. And the position, if I can sum it up, said that Venezuela, as an important partner in the region, as a member of the Americas, that we wanted no military intervention, we wanted a peaceful resolution. The people of Venezuela should, through dialogue, resolve their issue, that we needed to respect the sovereignty of Venezuela, and that in all that we said and did, we had to promote peace. That's what we want. The region, the Americas, is now a zone of peace, and we don't want that peace disrupted. Now, does the United States have a view? Absolutely. And some of the commentary that I've heard, it seems like people vex with America because America has a view. They're entitled to have a view. Does St. Kitts and Nevis have a view? Absolutely. And we equally are entitled to a view. And so, because the views may not always be the same, it doesn't mean that the relationship is bad or we need to start to vilify each other. Now, this started when President Trump invited certain leaders to Mar-a-Lago, his estate in Florida. And I believe it was a prime. We're individual sovereign countries. So we have to be able, within that framework of being a sovereign country, to engage with other countries. I use the example publicly in some comments I made of China and Taiwan. China engages with the majority of CARICOM. But within CARICOM, you have Haiti, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, St. Kitts Nevis, and Belize that have relations with Taiwan. Now, should we, those five, argue and say the others who subscribe to the one China policy are dividing the region? Should they say of us who support Taiwan that we are dividing the region? No. We say that you have a sovereign right to have your relationships, provided that it does not violate any tenet or position that CARICOM has arrived at. And I did not see the meeting that was convened in Jamaica as violating anything that CARICOM has said. The problem I feel that we have in the region is all of us prejudge. So all of us knew what the meeting in Jamaica was going to be about before the meeting occurred. And I am here to tell you that in the roundtable discussion, Secretary Pompeo did not even mention Venezuela. No mention whatsoever was made of Venezuela. He came, his statement was probably about 5 minutes or less. He said he had come to listen. And what he did mention was the fact that the United States was supportive of Luis Almagro to be returned as Secretary General of the OAS. He did say that they support Almagro. But there was none of the arm twisting and the badgering that it seems that people were in advance of the meeting saying the meeting would be about. And so my sense is that perhaps sometimes it is important in our region that we step back. We not make assumptions and then based on those assumptions arrive at conclusions. But we allow the meetings to occur And then after the meetings, we get the brief, and we determine then where we go. But I do not know, and I will say this very candidly, that one turns down an invitation from the United States in the ordinary course. We're not at war with the United States. We're friends. The United States is a significant partner. It's the main trading partner for the Caribbean at this point in time. So if you have an opportunity to sit, and think about it, Mr. Bat, little Sinkis Nevis, Mark Brantley from Brownhill and Henley Park, sitting down across from Secretary Michael Pompeo of the United States. Why would you pass up that kind of opportunity? It's an opportunity that comes once in a lifetime. To sit and to say, these are the priorities for St. Kitts and Nevis. And not to filter that through an ambassador or through some technocrat, but to the man himself. Who with a phone call, with a whisper in President Trump's ear, he could get things done. And I think that we need to sometimes step away and look at it critically and say, really, what is all the noise about? What is all the sound and fury about? And is it that perhaps it's not the U.S. that is dividing CARICOM, but some of the statements that are being made that can potentially divide CARICOM? Because there have been some very harsh statements sometimes made where we criticize each other. And we criticize each other for what? I will tell you that we went into that round table. Bahamas spoke about security in the region, gun violence in particular, drug trafficking, etc. Belize spoke to education, educational opportunities in the region. St. Lucia spoke to youth and youth development and how the U.S. can partner with us in terms of that. I spoke to the risking and the correspondent banking situation, debt and the situation with debt, and of course the risks of blacklisting to our economy. We had Haiti, Jamaica, and the Dominican Republic, which all spoke about security and trade. All of these were regional issues. We then went to bilateral discussions during which on the one-on-one you shared issues, and I would have been able to raise the issues like our FinCEN advisory and the like, which we are concerned about. So I think, Mr. Bart, that I'm not persuaded that CARICOM is easily divided. St. Kitts Nevis is committed to CARICOM. We're committed to the Caribbean. But we had an opportunity to meet with a principal player in our region, and we took that opportunity. And I think the Prime Minister is comfortable with that, the Cabinet is comfortable with that, they sanctioned my going there, and I'm comfortable with it. And I think the people of St. Kitts and Nevis ought to be comfortable that we are representing them and the Caribbean at the same time. So that is my response as best as I can to you. Yes.
Pleasant good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
This afternoon, wow, we've been here for a while.
Wow, yeah. I am Bjorn Hanley of BHC Media. And Mr. Premier, I realize you didn't answer the previous question in regards to candidates and the by-election. We know that the Premier is responsible for ringing the bell for this by-election upcoming. My question to you is, when will you ring that bell for the by-election? And if you're not giving us a date, why the secrecy? And also, who will be the candidate for St. Thomas's? And also, if you're not going to give us the name for the candidate again, why the secrecy? And also, since last year, you have been saying that your candidates for these federal elections are ready. You will be announcing them shortly. This is almost February now, and you are still saying that you have your candidates ready and you'll be announcing it shortly. My question is what is taking you so long, and again, why the secrecy involved in this process? There should be a transparent process. Why is this so much secrecy involved in it? And also, you mentioned there's a new director for the NTA, Nevis Tourism Authority, coming from overseas. Can you give us the package, the pay package for that person? Because we know overseas pay package normally a bit different from locals. You mentioned also in regards to the peace initiative that a support is being given to members for people from the peace initiative. So my question to you are, what support is being given to existing small businesses who are not a part of the peace initiative? And also, you were quite passionate about scholarships for different countries overseas. But the issue is, I don't think the issue is Nigerians going off to study, because we have a lot of Nigerians every year going off to study, and a lot are returning home as well. The issue is job creation. We have a lot of school leavers. We have a lot of university graduates returning home. What is the government doing in regards to job creation? What is the plan for job creation on Nevis? If you could respond to those, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Job creation, we have been, I think, chipping away at this. You raise a very important point. We have said that this government is serious about business and serious about encouraging business. And one of the things that we've done, because clearly everybody can't find a job in government, is to try to incentivize the private sector, and particularly the small business sector. So you asked, what are we doing? We are supporting the small business sector, encouraging the opening of new businesses, and through that, trying to encourage job growth in non-governmental positions, that is in the private sector. I think we've been working at that. We see some progress in that regard. As a matter of fact, on Sunday, I drove around the island, having attended church with the customs officers, and I was quite amazed at what I'm seeing. In fact, I happened upon a particular groundbreaking that was happening in the backhoes where they were working in the potworks area, where somebody was building a new apartment complex to house students at the MUA. The MUA has been growing, and as a consequence, you see the knock-on effects in the economy. We saw new businesses. I'm told that a new deli is opening in the potworks MUA area, only possible because, of course, of the growth of MUA and the vision of this government in bringing the MUA to Nevis. That is the same MUA, I would remind others, that the NRP has attacked relentlessly time and time again. So the reality is that we continue to encourage small businesses. We have now introduced this $5 million loan package that we have for women and youth, and that, I'm told, is being rolled out. We are going to be rolling out the conditions for that. I think the Cabinet is going to settle what those conditions are tomorrow, but we are already receiving applications in terms of that, to encourage, again, of loans of up to $100,000, small, micro and small businesses to develop. So we are supporting small businesses. We continue with duty exemptions and the like for small businesses that qualify. And we are hopeful that with that encouragement of that small business community, that we see the attendant job growth that we need and that you speak about. I would, however, not agree with you that there is a problem. There is not a problem, I'm sorry, about people going off, because the results will show that if scholarships are not being applied for, it means that people are not taking the advantage. And at the same time, we know that people are borrowing money to go and study. So burdening themselves with student debt to get what is essentially the same thing that they could get for free. So that is why we are inviting the press and others to help in the advocacy in relation to that. The Peace Initiative, you asked about support for local businesses. I believe I've outlined some of the measures that we're taking. The new CEO of the NTA, the pay package, I recall saying to the board that I didn't want them to depart from what we had in place. That is what Mr. Greg Phillip, who was there before, would have been getting. And I've been advised that we've stayed within those parameters. And so we're able to bring someone in at no additional cost, Mr. Hanley, to the NTA. Candidates and the readiness of our candidates, you keep coming with the same questions about who our candidates are, and you seem to be very concerned. I have said to you that the CCM as a political party will name its candidates when it's ready. And I will say to you, Mr. Hanley, that you are uniquely placed to understand the dangers of announcing too early. So we have to be very careful when we jump out and start to say who is going to be a candidate. Sometimes you're a little premature. So we are going to do things in our own time, based on our own efforts, and in the fullness of time, the people will know who our candidates are in the federal election and who our candidates are going to be, is going to be for the by-election that is being called in the great parish of St. Thomas. So there's no need, I think, for any rush in relation to this. There's no secrecy. There is nothing that being done clandestinely. But we have to roll out our strategy as a political party. And we will not be like others and jump out ahead of the gun and be told. Because I wouldn't want to announce anybody and then have to tell them, come back. Not them. So I think that we need to be careful that when we announce, we know exactly who we are talking about and that that person is in fact the candidate and that is the person who will be running. So we don't give any false impressions to the general public. Insofar as a date, that will be decided again. The Constitution gives 90 days, and so within 90 days that announcement will be made.
Thank you. Mr. Premier, back to job creation. I asked you, back to the support. Let's start with the support. I asked you what support is being given to small existing businesses, and your response to me was you are asking people to open up more businesses and small businesses are coming. I don't think that is support.
I don't know. What do you want? A check from the government? I'm not understanding. The government is creating an environment through tax incentives, through loans, through that for small businesses. I mean, what is it we want?
You mentioned a number of support with the peace initiative. That is support. But in regards to existing small businesses, you mentioned the $5 million grant to open up new businesses. And then loan. And then you mentioned again that you are asking Nivisions to open up more businesses. However, there are a number of existing small businesses, and we know that small businesses are very important because they create jobs for the economy. We have a number of one-man and one-woman businesses here on island. If each small business could hire at least 4 or 5 persons, that would be a lot of jobs being created. But then the small businesses need some type of support.
But when you keep saying support, what do you mean? You want a check from the government?
Support, yes, the government could provide services.
But you're not a small business, you're the Red Cross. That's the problem. We have to make a distinction, because some people seem to feel that they put up something, say, that I'm in business, and then it is the government's responsibility to make them successful. That is not the way it works.
So why are you so hostile?
No, that's not hostile. I'm trying to educate you and the public. Because you have come in the past and asked, that your small business needs some help. So I understand.
I have never asked you that question. I represent small businesses.
Okay, let me make the point. The role of government is to provide the environment for small businesses to open and hopefully to thrive. Okay. But once we have provided that environment, it's for the small business to go out and make its way.
Yes.
Get its customer base, do its marketing, do its business development, and put in the necessary time and effort to thrive. The sense I get from your questioning is that there is an added responsibility in the government to make sure that that business succeeds. And nowhere in the world can any government guarantee that a business will succeed. Many people who are very successful in business today tried and failed until they got the right formula. You have to be selling something that the public wants to buy. So if you open a bakery and your bread ain't good, you can't ask the government, well, what are you doing to support me? Buy bread for the cabinet from me? Buy bread? What must the government do? The government would have given you concessions to open a bakery, a duty-free van, a whatever to give you a startup. That's what the government does. Thereafter, you must do what you need to do. And I think that there's a kind of sense out there. Every time a business closes, they say, oh, the government. But the business may close because of bad service, because of bad product, because of bad pricing, whatever the case may be. You have a responsibility as a business person. All we can do is create the environment. So if we have created a fund And we say young people and women now can borrow to realize their business. That is significant assistance. That is a government that is looking at small business, recognizing the importance that you say, and we agree, for the development of small businesses and the job creation that it entails. But what I find happening, Mr. Hanley, and this reason I'm not hostile, I'm passionate about it, is because too many small businesses seem to have, or small business owners, seem to have this attitude that it's the government's responsibility to make them grow and make them develop and make them successful. Right? So you hear people come and they want to put their entire labor force on the step. They want free electricity. They want free water. Right? They don't want to pay any taxes because they feel it's the government's responsibility. And I'm saying the government can do so much. And then you as an entrepreneur must do your part as well.
All right. On the matter of job creation, I ask you again, what is the government doing in regards to job creation? Because you mentioned scholarships again, and you responded to me, and you mentioned scholarship again, but there's no mention about job creation. Can you give me a plan?
Well, Mr. Hanley, I don't know if you're listening,
because job creation?
I don't know if you're listening, because I said to you that part of our strategy in job creation is the development of small businesses.
Yes.
And the efforts that we are doing in relation to developing more small businesses. I even mentioned to you that I took my Sunday drive and what I saw happening on the island, right? So it seems to me that the evidence is on the ground, that the initiatives that the government has taken in relation to small business development, that those initiatives have been working and that they're bearing fruit. And by your own analysis, if each small business employs 1 or 2 or 3 people, then that is job creation.
That is why I asked you for support.
Okay,
What support the government is giving to
well,
small
I've answered that
businesses
question already. So,
so
if you have
that
a
they
different,
can hire people.
if you have a different
But
question,
you said the government is not responsible to give anybody any support.
that's what I said, Mr. Hanley.
That's what you told me. You said
Mr. Hanley,
the
I'm
government.
persuaded that you're not listening. You probably have written the answers to the questions already. Because I did not say the government is not responsible for giving support. I have outlined the support that the government has given.
The government is encouraging small businesses to open. That's what you said the support is.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
Mr. Hanley. If you say that, it clearly means to me that you're not listening. Because I
The
have
record
pointed
is
out,
there,
I've
that's what you
pointed out
said.
the loans, I've pointed out the duty free, I've pointed out all the things that we do for small businesses. And if you're going to say that I have said that we do nothing, then clearly you're not listening. So I don't know, but if you have a different question, please ask that.
Okay, we agree to disagree. Back to candidates again. My question is, because a lot of people are meeting me on the road,
Why are they meeting you?
and they are asking me who are the candidates,
As
and
I
I
asked you
want to be
before,
able
who
to
people?
respond.
Which road? Not a soul meeting you on any road asking you anything about CCM. You don't even know what's
course,
going on in
they're
NRP.
asking me who are
you
the
don't even
candidates.
know what's going on in NRP, and people are going to ask you what's going on in CCM. Mr. Hanley, let's get real. We are serious. Listen, I tell you already, this is a serious press conference, you know. You don't even know what's going on in the party that you self-declared for. And you're going to say that people are meeting you asking you about CCM?
Well, you know what's happening in the CCM, and you
Yes.
said you have the candidates and
When
the
the time
date
comes,
in
the
your
public
back
will
pocket.
know.
You
The
have the
public will know.
candidates and the date for the election in your back pocket.
Mr. Hanley, when the
My
time-
question is, why is the secrecy?
Mr. Hanley, when the
There's
time
no
comes...
transparency,
Mr.
Mr.
Hanley,
Premier. Give us the candidates
You
and
had
the
so
date.
much transparency that you declared yourself and then you were pulled
Yes,
back.
that's transparency.
That is transparency?
That is
I call that
transparency.
foolhardy.
No,
Not transparency.
transparency.
So
That's
you
what
need to
people
appreciate.
want.
That's
People
what the
need
people want.
trust.
You need to appreciate that the CCM is not a... We're not a little fool party, you know. We do things properly.
You don't believe in
Right?
transparency.
When I announce candidates for the CCM, because they're real candidates, they will in fact be running for the CCM.
Yes.
So we don't jump out.
And
We
when are
don't-
you going to announce them?
Well,
2
you
weeks
will-
before the
you-
election?
You will know, and the public will know. And then the public will take the decision, because ultimately it's a public matter for them.
Yeah.
Right? So don't come here and say about people asking you about CCM, because not a soul asking you.
People
nothing
are
else.
asking me every day about this,
All right.
what's happening. So you agree that there's no candidates yet for the CCM party, and you don't know when the date for the by-election will be. You agree on that?
I don't know what you're asking me, you know, Mr. Hanley. I said when the time comes, an announcement will be made. So unless you have something
So for
that...
now, you don't know. It's It's up in the air for now. You're waiting to see. I don't know what you're waiting for, but you're waiting to see
Mr. Hanley, for
what
the
will
last
happen.
time, I will make an announcement at the
Soon.
appropriate time. Okay? That is all that I can tell you at this point in
And the
time.
appropriate time could be any time.
Why no wonder you have to show your way? I don't understand.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. I think that would end it.
I don't know. Are there any other questions for me? Yes, Mr. Bart.
My last question,
Yes.
Premier Brantley. Could you comment on tourism in Nevis, specifically the land-based side of things? You know, the travel industry has been changing over the last 10 years or so, and they're creating new challenges. You have these Airbnb-type operations popping up all over the place. What are the new challenges being faced for getting tourists to our country, especially from the European side of things? What kind of challenges are being faced by the Tourism Authority?
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. I think the challenge is that there's intense competition in the marketplace. We don't have normally the budgets to go head to head with even some in the Caribbean. You know, I mean, I saw some numbers from the Bahamas recently, which suggested there are over 7 million visitors for the past year. Some numbers from the Dominican Republic and those big players. It's very difficult for Little Nevis and St. Kitts and Nevis to sort of go head to head with them. So we're constantly having to create our own little niche and find our own path, so to speak, insofar as tourism is concerned. So I think competition is a big issue. The world is opening up. That's good and bad. It's opening up meaning that there's more air traffic now. So potentially we have more links to bring our tourists in. But also it also means that there are new areas of the world that people are now traveling to. And Europeans, for example, have access to areas that are closer to them. For example, if you go to the south of France or some parts of Italy, the weather is comparable. You know, the Mediterranean is a very nice place to travel to. And so people may decide, well, listen, am I going to fly 8-9 hours to the Caribbean, or I'm going to go to the south of Italy, or you know, as the case may be, places in the south of France, or Greece, you know, Santorini and those islands are very popular. So I feel that those are the challenges, is really how do you create the niche? How do you create a St. Kitts and Nevis that is a must-go for most people? And we have to find a way to deal with that. It's an incredibly challenging environment. The cost of travel as well to get here is difficult. The connectivity, because sometimes even though we have the flights, say, from Miami to St. Kitts, people complain that to get from other parts of the states, they have to overnight. So, you know, you have all of those concerns, and we realize that most people just like to hop on and hop off. So they want the convenience of travel. We are looking at all of that in terms of how we better position St. Kitts and Nevis. But I think we've been doing well thus far, and I'm hopeful that that continues. And that if we have no challenges from the weather, I think Nevis in particular should have a record-breaking season this year. And that is the hope that we have. St. Kitts, we know, has surpassed 1 million cruise passengers each of the past 2 years. And that is significant because in Barbados, which I always assumed had a much bigger industry, they were celebrating 800,000 passengers recently. Little St. Kitts is doing over 1.2 million. So I think that is very significant. We're leading the OECS, more than St. Lucia, more than Antigua, more than Grenada, more than Dominica, and even more than Barbados. So we are making progress. Should we sit on our laurels? No. We must continue to push, but I feel that we should be looking at some record numbers this year. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have gone much longer than we normally would. I thank all of you for your patience. I thank you for your questions, members of the media. Thank you very much for being here. Permanent secretaries, Superintendent David from the police. Thank you all for NTV and THG and the various media houses that would have covered. I am very grateful, and the date for the next press conference will be announced. Thank you. I invite everybody to join us for the opening of the Treasury Building on Thursday, and certainly for the launch of the 10,000 tree planting ceremony, which happens tomorrow at the St. Thomas's Primary School. Thank you, and God bless you.